Alright, yeah, welcome back to some more Magic Arena, and today we're going to be taking a little bit of a break from Historic, since Historic Brawl is coming out tomorrow as of the recording and probably publishing of this video. We're going to be doing a lot of Historic over the time, but for those of you who maybe enjoy Standard a little bit more, this is going to be the palate cleanser, and, you know, gotta appease the whole crowd that's over here, you know, so I like to play all of the formats, or at least in some capacity. So we're going to be going back into Standard. It's been a while since I played it. The last time I played it was just before the remastered came out, maybe a week or so before then. So it's been a little bit of a while. I don't think much has changed in there. I think rogues are still like really popular and annoying and irritating, as is like Doom Foretold or something like that. But I did recently see, I think it was LSV, talking about a new food deck that is rising up in popularity, and that is the first game I ever played against with this deck, and it's a really, really good matchup. So I'm hoping that food kind of takes off, because then this deck is a nice little counter to it. We're going to be playing around with Double Vision today, a 5-mana enchantment. It says whenever you cast your first instant and sorcery spell each turn, you get to copy that spell and choose new targets for the copy. So best way to use this is in an instant and sorcery focused deck, which we have right here, and you want to be focusing more on the instant side than the sorcery side, because if you're not actually taking advantage of Double Vision on your opponent's turn, then you are wasting a hell of a lot of value. So most of our deck ends up being instant speed unless it's a really valuable piece of tech or a land, in the case of Shatter Skull Smashing, that you really just kind of need in your deck. So we're going to be doubling up instants and sorceries, and it's going to be one of the ways that we win. We're going to be basically drawing extra cards, and I mean extra cards, because you're going to be going for something like Frantic Inventory, which allows you to draw a card, and then draw a card equal to the number of cards named Frantic Inventory in your graveyard. But with this, we're going to be using this as a 2-mana draw 2 as a bare minimum, which is probably what it should be, because it kind of goes from bad to fine to good to great. That's kind of how Frantic Inventory works. But if we have a Double Vision in play, we're going to be drawing 2, then we're going to be drawing 6, and then, you know, so on and so forth. Going to be drawing too many cards for our opponent to deal with. But card advantage alone will not win you the game. The other namesake card that we're going to be playing with is another Draft Chaff card, Experimental Overload. I've been looking for a home for this card for quite some time, and I think this is finally the place for it. It's a 4-mana sorcery. It creates an XX blue and red weird creature token, where X is the number of instants and sorceries in your graveyard. Then you may return an instant or sorcery card from your graveyard to your hand, and then exile Experimental Overload. So you can only use this once, so you got to keep that in mind. You don't want to use these too early, because you don't want to be making 2/2s and 1/1s. You want to be making 17/17s and 16/16s, something that will pretty much match your opponent's life total the first time you cast it. That's what you're going to be wanting to do with it. Of course, you don't always get the choice, but if you do, you want to be holding this for as long as possible. Especially considering it does exile itself as soon as it's cast. So if you're making a 16/16, that's not all that great, unless, of course, you've got a Double Vision in play, and then Experimental Overload will be making you a 16/16, and then a 15/15, and also drawing you 2 cards. It's an absurd powerhouse card if you can get it going with the Double Vision. And of course, this effect does stack, so the more Double Visions you have in play, the more resolutions of a card that you're going to get, which is just amazing. It's not going to double, it's actually going to make 2 copies, then 3 copies, then 4 copies. So it's not any kind of doubling effect in that sense, but it's just having 1 Double Vision in play is good enough. Let's just put it that way. So we're actually kind of a tempo control deck up until the point where we just kind of win on the spot with a really huge, weird token. So we've got lots and lots of things to keep tempo with our opponent and remove their threats and annoy them in general. So we've got things like Shock, which is a 1-mana 2 damage to any target. Keeping in mind, when you've got Double Vision in play, this suddenly goes into a very playable card in the late game. It becomes a 1-mana, deal 2 damage, and then deal 2 damage again, so you can split this damage. You can deal 4 damage for 1 mana, so it's a really nice, well, what's the new card? It's like something Rebuke, isn't it? It's basically Lava Coil without the exile at that point for 1 mana. We've got Blitz the Thunder Raptor, which is an absolutely absurd powerhouse removal spell. However, it's really bad in the early game, hence the 3 copies of this one. It's a 2-mana instant. It says it deals damage to target creature or planeswalker equal to the number of instant and sorcery cards in your graveyard, again playing to the theme that we're running with here. And if it's a creature or planeswalker and it would die, you exile it instead, which means it doesn't get a death trigger, and in the case of something like Croxa, you can't use it to escape again, so our burn spells aren't just wasted on escape creatures like Polukranos and whatnot, which I think is actually getting to be quite the playable card now as well, which is pretty sweet. So we got those as targeted removal. We also have Storm's Wrath, a 4-mana sorcery to deal 4 damage to each creature and each planeswalker. Again, if we're doubling that, then it's a 4-mana deal 8 damage. Should pretty much hit everything in the format at that point, so if we can Wrath with a double vision in play, we should be pretty good. There's also a lot of situations as well where in the late game, Experimental Overload can be so big that even a copied Storm's Wrath is not enough to kill your Overload tokens. When you're in that kind of situation, that's usually when you should feel comfortable going with your Experimental Overloads for the wins, because then, you know, you've got your 9/9s and your 10/10s and things like that. That should pretty much close out the game on its own. That's when you should start thinking about using this card. You don't want to use it until you've got double vision, though, most of the time, unless you're kind of really stuck. But yeah, we've also got Stern Dismissals, because I found out that Doom Foretold decks are around, so it's a really nice tempo way of dealing with your opponent. They also have Elspeth's Nightmare quite a lot in their deck, which is really bad for us, especially in the late game when you want to be resolving your experimental overloads. Since these care about only your graveyard, if it gets exiled, that's a feels bad. So, you know, bouncing Stern Dismissal, forcing your opponent to play their turn 3 play all over again, is better than not doing it, let's put it that way, but it's still going to be a really rough matchup nonetheless. We can always counter it on the way back down with a Thassa's Intervention, which allows us to counter a spell unless our opponent pays twice X. This is one of our ways of interacting with the stack, which can be relevant in a few situations, but it's also one of the best card advantage cards we have in our deck. Looking at the top X card of our library and put 2 of them into our hand and the rest on the bottom of our library in a random order. So if we were to do this for something which is not unreasonable, something like an X5, we get to look at the top 10 cards of our library and pick 4 of them if we have a double vision out. That's just absurd. And that's one of the ways that we're going to win this game. You can also do something like Experimental Overload, pulling a Thassa's Intervention back, which means that you've got your win condition in your weirds, and then you also have it with counter backup if your opponent's running a board wipe kind of deck. Because again, you don't really want your tokens to go, so you want to be able to protect them. Got a couple of Essence Scatters as well, to just counter random creatures. Found that they were just quite kind of nice. They don't really do much with double vision, but they're a nice early game counter spell to keep you alive while you are waiting for your Wraths and whatnot. And yeah, finally, the mana base. It's pretty simple. It's mostly all of the tap lands that you can run and all of the dual lands that you can run. Slight skew. Actually, no, it's even skew these days. I've been swapping these around quite a lot, but I mean, technically it's a slight skew into red with our spell lands, but our spell lands are here to be cast as spells more than lands, but we do want to make sure that we get to double vision mana. And, you know, the card advantage, like Opt, is going to get us there most of the time, but we also want to be running a decent amount of lands. So we got Valakut's Awakening, which is a pretty decent land. It also allows us to look at the top, put any number of cards from our hand on the bottom of the library and then draw that many cards +1. So if we're going to use Valakut's Awakening, we're going to use it for like discarding 3. It's not really discarding, it's putting them on the bottom. So something like Experimental Overload, you don't have to get rid of it. You can just put it on the bottom, find it later, and then draw extra cards for that. And if it's copied, that's really nice as well, because then you get to put the next cards on the bottom and then keep filtering your deck around, putting things to the bottom that you don't need or you might not need at that very moment, but you can always get them back later, which is really nice. And then Shatter Skull Smashing, X damage divided as you choose, among up to 2 target creatures or planeswalkers. If X is 6 or more, it deals twice X damage divided as you choose among them instead. Doubled again, you can choose new targets for the copy, so this is a really nice board wipe in the late game as well, and should pretty much hit everything you need. Again, you don't really need to hit your opponent's face, because Experimental Overload will eventually get you there. But yeah, that's essentially the long-winded deck tech. Hopefully you guys have enjoyed. If you have, make sure to hit the like button and subscribe. It lets me know what kind of content you're interested in watching, and lets me know you're enjoying the videos in general. I really appreciate it. Feed the algorithm, all that stuff. Without further ado, let's continue forward, shall we? This video is brought to you by the generous support of our wonderful patrons and channel members that you see here. If you'd like to support the channel and get access to cool content like sneak peeks, bonus videos, polls on future content, or access to a personal deck critique from myself every month, then hit the join button down below, or check out the Patreon link in the description. With all that said, let's get into the gameplay. Alright, we're in, and... is this hand keepable? It's kind of keepable. We're on the draw, which is obviously... we're going to put a little bit of a damper in our potential win, but... yeah? Let's go for this. I mean, if it's mono red, we can keep them controlled for a little while, I guess. Shadow Spear. Alright, that makes me comfortable enough to lead with an island. We've got Storm's Wrath as well. So we can work that out. Ooh, if it's mono green, I think we've got a pretty decent matchup against mono green. My first ever game against, with this deck, sorry, was against a green Stompy list. And they had the Food Wolves up to like 17/17s, and I was still destroying them. It was great. Hopefully we can match that. I'm just going to take the land, basically. Well, we got more lands, which is honestly fine, because we want to work our way to double vision anyway. Do we want to work our way that hard to double vision? I think we do, honestly. I think between the Storm's Wrath and the Shocks, we should be all good. Alright. So I'm gonna have to imagine there's something quite large here. That's a giant opportunity. Alright. So we're gonna be facing things like Feasting Troll King, which we have a pretty decent set of cards against as well, because we have the ways of exiling it when it dies. I think I'm just going to play this down tapped here and pass. Our opponent's clearly building up to something, which honestly could be another giant opportunity to make a 7/7. A Caryatid. Alright, well, if that's the best they can do, we're just going to shock that. Fill up our graveyard as well a little bit. And then stop them ramp into Feasting Troll Kings and whatnot. Alright, Temple. What do we want to see here? Something to play off of double vision the turn after next, I suppose, which is probably going to be the Storm's Wrath. So in that case, I want card advantage. And Essence Scatter ain't it, Chief. So let's take a turn off to do nothing. Hopefully our opponent doesn't creature into Gem Razor, but we have backup double vision if they do. Yeah, here comes a big 7/7. We can double Storm's Wrath with the double vision. Ooh, they just made food. Okay, fair enough. Alright, well, I don't think that means that we got much fear of a Gem Razor, which is probably the only artifact and enchantment removal they have in their deck, if at all. Just going for it. Alright, now we're sacking for giants. It's pretty cool art. Not gonna lie. We have a Stern Dismissal, which is definitely going to be a thing that I play. So let's go double vision. We have 6-point shocks for 1 mana, and then we have a triple bounce with Stern Dismissal. I'm hoping that they play something pre-combat here so that I can bounce in response. Sure. I was wondering if they were going for a Gem Razor there with the way that they actually highlighted their giant. Was not the case. Alright. Single target, so, you know. Boop. There they go. Submit 0. Does this actually say up to 1 target? Return target creature or enchantment. An opponent controls. Yeah, so I had no options, so I don't know why it was even asking me in the first place. Blitz of the Thunder Raptor. It's a very good card. I'm just gonna pass, because I don't think I care about Gilded Goose. We've essentially won this game at this point. There's Wicked Wolf. Alright, so this is where things get interesting. We could do with a little bit of card advantage for sure. More food. But as long as every single turn we attack the Wicked Wolf in a way that forces them to eat food and tap it down, then there's no big deal. So we're going to keep our shocks and our things in hand. I guess we might as well just go for an old Wrath. Force our opponent to tap. And then they'll lose the Gilded Goose. Eating away at the food is also pretty good. So, I dare say you've got nothing to do, opponent. There they go. Alright. And then we can use our shocks to do it again on their turn. You should eventually as well, with the Blitz of the Thunder Raptors, be capable of actually preventing Wicked Wolf from ever getting to a size that actually matters. So they have to tap in order to do this, in order to protect. This is the text that something like Dream Trawler should have, by the way. It should have something that's not readily available and produced by itself in order to keep itself protected. The fact that it's discard a card is really strange to me. Oh boy. Alright, well, fortunately for us... Well, it actually depends on how they want to do this, because if they want to sack a food on my turn, then it's a little bit more awkward. Fortunately for us, though, we do 6 damage with our shocks here, so it's enough to force our opponent to go actually and tap with the Wicked Wolf. I don't think they've got pump spells in their deck. Yeah, just imagine Wicked Wolf every time it attacked, producing its own food. That's Dream Trawler. That's what that is. Alright, well, we can point the rest at our opponent. I don't know if I've not been doing this entire time, by the way. It's entirely possible that I've been more preoccupied with talking to you than actually paying attention to the game. I'll readily admit that's probably a possibility. Alright, so they produce some food. We've got a shock. I'm just going to go for another Wrath, because that will kill the Troll King. Force our opponent to sack some more food to the Wicked Wolf. We can keep this up for quite some time. We will eventually need a way of refueling, like Thassa's Intervention or Experimental Overload. One of those would be real nice. Alright, so we're doing it this way. Instead of blitzing the Troll King, because they'll spend 3 food to bring him back. You can do this on my end step, can't you? Oh, only during your turn. Never mind. Yeah, I'll take 8 here. Reason being, I can kill my opponent from the life total that they'll be going up to. I want multiple targets with my Blitz of the Thunder Raptor. One from hand. Now that is... it's upsetting, to say the least, I would say. Why? Oh, this thing isn't legendary. A Troll King that isn't legendary. Alright, well, this is still going to backfire pretty hard on them, I would say. Because we're just going to get rid of them all. And we're going to hope to sweet Jesus that we can draw a good card. Troll King's already dead. I mean, I might as well point this here. See if they sack in response for the lulz. They probably don't. I'm just trying to be mana efficient. It might just be better to do it on their turn, though. That's exactly what I wanted, honestly. A wasted food token being used there. Alright, Experimental Overload, Thassa's Intervention, Frantic Inventory, or Opt. All of those are going to be really good cards here. Stern Dismissal, I guess, would also work. Would reset our opponent's Wicked Wolf. Alright, we got the Opt. So let's scry 3, draw 3. We don't want that. We get a strictly worse version of it. We want that. Valakut's Awakening. Yeah, I can accept that, I think. So, let's... we want to do this on our opponent's turn, I think. And I want to find a way to kill Wicked Wolf, or at least slow them down. Yeah, I'm going to have to pass here and hope to draw something good, I think. Yeah, gonna have to happen. I don't need to play the land, so I can use Valakut's Awakening to use it to dig deeper. So I need to be able to deal 9 damage on the stack. A Blitz of the Thunderraptor would allow me to do that. I could only X2 Thassa's Intervention, which is draw 6. I could do Valakut's Awakening. That probably goes deeper, right? I'm going to do a draw 3, then a draw 4, then a draw 5, and then I need a Blitz out of all of that. Alright, let's go. Might be greedy to keep the Thassa's Intervention, in all honesty. Maybe I should actually go deeper, because if I don't find what I need, I actually lose on the spot. So yeah, let's get rid of the Intervention, even though I really want it. Alright, we got what we needed. We even got a Essence Scatter, but we're not going to need that. We're going to get rid of you, you, and you. Looking for Experimental Overload to finish the game off here. Another Blitz of the Thunderraptor. Let's get rid of you, you, and you. Okay, that works. And yeah, let's Blitz Wicked Wolf here. Sweet. Alright, so tapped Indestructible. Opponent passes. We're going to keep this Opt. It's depending on how they play this out. That's nice. Depending on how they play this out, we might want to actually do the... Oh my. Oh my. Alright, well we definitely want that, don't we? This lets me double vision into Opt and then also Frantic... sorry, not Frantic. Blitz of the Thunderraptor. All of their board. So let's draw 4, scry 4. Still looking for that Experimental Overload. So, I mean, Frantic Inventory is good, but we really don't need it. We should be really close to our payoff cards. I mean, that will guarantee that we win. So we'll take that. As slow as it may end up being. Another Wrath. No. Stern Dismissal is also a good one. And say no to that. We'll get there eventually, chat. I promise you that. We will eventually draw the cards we need. So we're going to pass. We're going to see if they make the mistake of pre-combat playing a creature, which will actually allow me to nuke an extra one. So we're going to go 12 there. Force them to tap it. I'm surprised our opponent's even playing this out. I think they're assuming that I'm eventually going to run out of steam, which, with Thassa's Intervention in hand, is not going to happen. I mean, they need a... Apparently they need a 26/26 and another creature that I want to kill in play in order to keep that thing alive. That's another way to make them tap a food token. Alright, so we're just going to play a mountain here. We're going to Stern Dismissal the Wicked Wolf. So instead, what we're going to do is a 2, 4, 5, 6 Thassa's Intervention. And yeah, we're just gonna win. Are you ready for the greatest amount of card advantage you've ever seen? Alright, so Intervention. Well, there's a Double Vision. I'll take a Double Vision and another Intervention. This Double Vision should get me Experimental Overload. They're all apparently stacked at the bottom of my deck. Yes, they literally were. Okay. 2 Experimental Overloads. Those are going to be the way we win this game. And there's the third one. And, I mean, it really doesn't matter. I'll just take another Intervention. And then we'll have a Shock and a land drop. Sounds good to me. I don't even know if we've made a land drop. We haven't. Oh, we have, sorry. We now know a good portion of our deck. Alright. Isn't that fantastic? Right, so let's start discarding. Let's get rid of the mountain. We know we're going to draw a land next turn, so let's just get rid of all the lands. 1 Thassa's Intervention, 1 Shock because we won't need it, 1 Stern Dismissal because we won't need it. Let's get rid of Frantic Inventory, and that's a draw. Discard 6. This hand is filthy. And our opponent should be worried. Alright. I mean, we could be partially worried about something like Heroic Intervention. But, you know, they don't have it, and it's not really a card that anyone really ever has, so not too concerned about it. Opponent plays a 3/3 Wicked Wolf. They haven't seen anything yet. So we're going to go Mountain, we're going to go Double Vision, and we're going to bury our opponent in card advantage again. So let's make a 1919 Experimental Overload token. Please don't scoop. You've played it out for so long. Okay. Alright, so Experimental Overload will get me the Stern Dismissal required to bounce Wicked Wolf. Then we'll make an 1818. And then we'll make a 1717, a 1616, and a 1515. All of these getting beam back an instant or sorcery of my choice out of my graveyard as we go along, making sure that we have everything we need to live. Our opponent wouldn't let us play it out, but it is what it is. Alrighty then, on the draw, got turn 2 Essence Scatter, and then we can wipe a board. It's kind of hard to justify keeping this hand, to be honest, but there are plenty of worse 6s, so I guess it's okay. I don't know, we're basically going to be letting our opponent build up a board as we go. Only being able to counter 1 spell. The Opt was a really nice draw there, actually. It's a life gain deck. Alright. It's a pretty good matchup for us, I would say. So we're just looking at this point for Double Vision, I think. Since this hand basically has creatures covered for quite some time. So we can hit a Heliod here, maybe? A Basri Cat was not a card I was expecting to see. Okay. So they can pump up the Daxos, give it indestructible for the turn, and then swing. We're just going to opt Blitz of the Thunder Raptor. I'm going to say no to that because we do need our 4th land. Experimental Overload. Yeah, this could go weirdly wrong. Speaker of the Heavens, we don't care about because we are going to Storm's Wrath. Nor do we care about Lurrus, because we're going to Storm's Wrath. I'd love to see a tick down from Basri. That would mean that he dies, but unlikely to happen.
I will guard your advance.
Counter on the summoning sick creature is exactly what we wanted to see. Alright, so I really need a land here. We found it. This doesn't really do too much. I guess I could... Actually, I can blitz Basri Ket here. Put him into the Wrath range, which I think also puts Daxos into Wrath range. Yes, it does. Would you look at that? Alright, they get some life gain triggers, but we really don't care. We've kind of hard reset their board. Glorious Anthem. Alright, well there's a double vision. I think I'm just going to pass. We're going to go for a Thassa's Intervention X2, unless we really hate what our opponent plays here, which... Do I hate this? I'm going to draw a land. I'm going to play double vision. Daxos is going to be a 4-6. Then he's going to be a 5-7. I'm going to Storm's Wrath. Yeah, I don't care. Alright. Pump that boy. I shouldn't care. I think. Alright, 1, 2. I just need a land out of either these two. Fantastic. Or the one off the top. Would also be fine. Well, we were extra insulated from bad draws, it seems. Just put this on Mountain, play double vision. So, Storm's Wrath is going to deal 8 damage to the whole board. Which is enough to kill Daxos here. If they were to put the counter on it. Puts us to 3, which is not a great place to be. They do have Arden Veil, which is also annoying, but we should be able to answer it just nicely enough anyway with what we have in hand. So, let's Wrath. They're making 2/2s with Arden Veil as well, so that should be something to keep in mind. Okay, so the board is clear. Opponent will end step Arden Veil. We're going to see if they go for a pre-combat play here so we can get some double vision value. It would be a mistake for them to do it. Which is why they haven't done it. Alright. Yeah, we're just going to have to... I guess we actually get to bounce the Glorious Anthem as well, which kind of sets them back. That's cute. Alright. Forgot about that aspect. Beloved Princess, and then they can play the Glorious Anthem. They can't play the Arden Veil this turn, so that's pretty good as well. Is this where we actually go with the Experimental Overload, or do we just continue drawing cards? Is an 8-8 and a 7-7 good enough? It probably is, right? Especially when it follows up with several ways of staying in this game. So Storm's Wrath will kill my own creatures, so I don't really want that. I'll take the Blitz. I will take the Thassa's Intervention. Cool. Can't be blocked by creatures with power 3 or greater. Oh no. Oh no. Whatever shall I do? He's dead now. Alright. Temple of Epiphany. Let's see what the top card is. We don't care. And yeah, we're just going to Experimental Overload again. Swing with the team. They can't make a token. We swing with our... Ooh, actually, what was it? Going to be a 7-7 and a 6-6. Pretty good. Pretty good. Alright, we're up against the Yorion list. Yay. Alright, it's back to Ikoria standard all over again. Seems like everyone's either playing Yorion or Lurrus. Just can't catch a break from either of them, to be honest. Tranquil Cove. Could be the Esper Doom list, which Stern Dismissal's in here for that, because they've got Elspeth's Nightmare, which is exceptionally irritating. I'm going to put an Essence Scat to the bottom. I don't imagine it has too many targets that my burn spells can't hit. Bottom the land, we need to dig for good cards. Is it Esper? Not so far, it isn't. Okay. Not exactly drawing good cards. I'd like for that to eventually change. I'm in no massive rush for that to change, just as long as I do eventually draw good cards when they're relevant, that would be nice. But you know, the Magic Gods are the only ones who get to decide that. So we'll have to see, won't we? There's a Double Vision. Okay. It's a fine card. But I wish any one of these cards was some form of land drop, for example, or card advantage. Either of those would be nice. Solemn. Alright, this is where a land would be really nice, followed by our opponent not destroying my Double Vision. It is fortunately just large enough to get out of the range of Skyclave Apparition, which is probably a card they're running in their deck. In fact, I don't think there's anything in our deck that actually gets hit by Skyclave Apparition, so it's just a 3-mana 2/2 for us. It's actually Jeskai. I dare say that they're only running the Triomes just as a scry option, or a cycle, sorry. 2 to the top. Alright. So this is where things get a mixture of sketchy and interesting, I suppose. Because we need to destroy their board in a way that pleases me. So we're going to go with... Am I just going to let them draw with Solemn? So I could shock, and then bounce the tokens. Or I could just Wrath. Just Wrathing gets rid of all of it and keeps me in the Stern Dismissal spot. I guess that's alright. Can't counter it because it's doubled. They do get to draw cards. I'm expecting maybe they're going to flash in an Omen of the Sun on end step. And I can just get rid of those tokens with a double dismissal. I don't necessarily want to be bouncing the Omens back to their hand. So obviously they're better in their hand than they are in play right now. So I'm not sure what they could have for Double Vision that we have to care about too much. I'm really regretting getting rid of my Storm's Wrath. That's a given. But I guess I could start making them discard cards. Stern Dismissal. Could either let this go, or they can discard a card. And then we'll make them do it next turn as well. There's a Shatter the Sky, that's a dead card against us, mostly. Yeah, I'm just going to submit 0 here. I'm pretty sure I'm not allowed to do that, but the card seems to disagree with that assessment. I can do an Experimental Overload here, and I can get that Wrath back. And then also use the Dismissal. Yeah, I think that's what I want to do. So, Experimental Overload. Let's make a 3/3 and a 2/2. And get back the Wrath. You can Mystical Dispute one, but I've got the other. As long as I get one, I don't really mind. Even they should have countered the token copy, because now I get a 4/4, which is a thing. fact, I could technically get back the experimental overload, but we'll wait until we're much more well established, I think, to do something like that. This is a land drop. I like land drops. They please me. Only 2 blue, though, kind of upsets me. Because when we get to Thassa's Intervention, we're not going to be able to do multi-spells of any particular choice. So they know about the Wrath here, so they're more likely to just let this bounce back to their hand, which I'm totally fine with, as long as it stays in their hand forever. I don't really care. It's just being in play irritates me. It also means I don't have to Wrath my elemental token away. By the way, look at that sick art. Alright. Submit 0. So got rid of another Shatter the Sky there. I am going to be able to stop this Dream Trawler from attacking until the end of time, which is great. In fact, they do know about the Wrath, so... that's mighty interesting. Is this a counterspell then? Because if I was to double Wrath and they countered 1/2 of it, they're assuming I can't do anything about it after that. So if I went for this, they'd need land into Yorion to kind of punish that, but I would... assuming they counter 1/2 of this and then I'm forced to tap out for the rest. I don't think I care too much about a Yorion doing any of the Omen flickering, necessarily. Yeah, now I'm just in a really nice spot, I think. Omen of the Sun. We can shock the tokens away. I want to leave open Essence Scatter, though, for Yorion. Because if they drew a land here, then they get to play Yorion. So I'm going to have to take the 2 damage here. And then they're going to post-combat Yorion. I'm going to say, You didn't say the magic word. And then I'm going to feel sad, because the cards I have in hand are not the ones I wanted. Question is, do I take 2 more damage? I think the answer is yes. I think I want the opportunity to kill something much worse. Thassa's not much worse. Alright, so we sacrificed 2 life here in order to potentially get more value. So I'm attacking that one. I need to target this one. Hopefully one day they kind of make that a little bit clearer. Because when that stack fills up, hovering cards to see which ones you haven't targeted gets a little bit more sketchy. I need card advantage. It's not card advantage. But it seems appropriate for the kind of cards I've been seeing from our opponent anyway, which is mostly creature-based in some form or another. I don't necessarily care about this right now. Although maybe stopping them from tapping with Thassa is appropriate. So they have to sack their Omens to get better scries, maybe? Yeah, I think with double Blitz in my hand, I can afford to lose a little bit of value to stop them from gaining value. Again, we're just kind of card advantage away from winning this game, I think. Sort of card advantage, but not really. It's a 2-mana draw 2. Alright. Calm down with the cards that are mostly irrelevant. I will keep that, actually. I'm trying to think what cards they could have here that are really bad for us. A land, ain't it? Ooh. Another double vision. They don't seem like the kind of deck to be running something like Undo Inversion, which would destroy all non-land permanents. One top, one bottom. So they like a card that they see here, which is going to be a Banishing Light. We have Stern Dismissals, and we also have a spare Double Vision, so that's not too bad. It's honestly up there with pretty good draws. That's a really, really good draw. Alright, let's cast that. I think I have an excess amount of blitzes here, but I don't really want to get rid of all of them either. I think I'm just going to get rid of Blitz and Shatterskull Smashing. Firstly, that's the card you want to see. And then I'll get rid of... I think I'll just get rid of the lands, to be honest. There's a good chance I'll draw more lands anyway. This allows me to draw 3 and go find them. So yeah, we got a temple there. Nice. Another land unnecessary. We're looking for our experimental overloads at this point in order to win the game. One of them's in our graveyard, actually. And... yep, pass it up. If our opponent does nothing, we have a draw 4. They did nothing, so we're going to draw 4. Good stuff, good stuff. Extra Thassa's Intervention is exactly what we want, actually. Exactly. This allows me to do a counter unless they pay a 6. So they can play 4 drops and be fine. If I played this... I'm honestly not sure what I have to care about, and I think double vision is just a game-winning play. Assuming my board doesn't get completely wiped, and as we mentioned, Ondu Inversion's not a card I expect to see from them, but that is a card I can actually intervention counter. The rest I can blitz and shock away. A Solemn, don't care. I maybe care to the extent that I can actually shock it and do things with it. Maybe it's a blitz target. I don't know. I'm at 10, so I don't particularly care. But I should probably do something with it. I think to avoid our opponent getting a counterspell off the draw, I'm going to use one of these blitzes. And then, yeah. Basically, we're just going to win next turn. Our opponent will submit 0. I think it's asking me to submit 0 because Thassa's in play and it assumes I can target the creature even though once it asks me it knows I can't. It's a very strange interaction that doesn't seem to make too much sense to me. Alright, so that is an experimental overload. So that's a 12-12, an 11-11, and a 10-10. I think I'm okay with that, especially considering it allows me to leave up and Thassa's Intervention for my opponent's turn. And get back another experimental overload for the following turn as well, because they counted the wrong card. So I'll get the overloads. They can tap with Thassa, of course, but that will tap them out consistently all the time. I could get back a double vision with Stern Dismissal. That sounds very funny, so I'll grab that. I'm basically picking cards that sound amusing at this point. I guess I could proper lock them out with an Essence Scatter as well. So now I've got counters for anything, counters for creatures that are cheaper. And yeah, our opponent has decided that they're not in the business of consistently tapping down my board with Thassa until they lose. And they scoop it up. Not too bad. Alright guys, well that is gonna do it for today's video. Hopefully you've enjoyed. If you have, then make sure to hit the like button and subscribe to let me know what kind of content you're interested in seeing. Tomorrow is Brawl Week, so I'm going to be recording a hell of a lot of Historic Brawl, bringing hopefully most of it to you guys as well. And I'm going to try and do a very big batch recording as well, so once the week of Historic Brawl goes away, hopefully for the next few weeks I can actually keep publishing gameplay footage from that Brawl event. That's at least the idea anyway, so if I record 2 Brawl decks every single day, and then give you one of those videos every other day. I should have a week's worth of content. In theory, we'll see if that ends up being a thing, because obviously I do have other life aspects to attend to from time to time, so, you know, may not end up living up to that, but I'm certainly going to try anyway. So yeah, let me know what you think about this deck down in the comment section below, what you've been doing yourselves in Standard. I'm kind of curious, because I haven't played Standard pretty much at all since the last time I played this deck, which was a couple of weeks ago, I think, something like that. So, you know, it's been mostly just historic for me for quite some time. But yeah, like, subscribe, have a good night, all that jazz. Take care.